everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Kevin Moore Show. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, just click that subscribe button below, and this really helps to support the show. If you're new to the show, I interview guests from a spiritual perspective, covering mainstream and alternative subjects and much more. On today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Carol Pate. Now, Carol was born with psychic abilities and has contributed to many murder and missing people cases. Carol has been featured in 3 international television documentaries and has worked with all facets of the media at local, state, national levels and internationally. Now, she joins me today from Little Rock in the USA to discuss her work and so much more. Carol Pate, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. It's great to be on. I'm glad to talk to you. I'll be interested to see what questions you have for me.
Yes, well, so we just got this right. Where you are, you're in Little Rock, Arkansas, is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Obviously, you're in a remote place right now, so trying to get it, well, you've got internet, but it's not very stable sometimes. So we've decided to do this by phone. I'd love to have you in on, in person and to do the interview, but this will do for now, most definitely. And someone recommended that I get you on, and I told you that when I first connected with you. And the funny thing is, right? Sometimes you don't take a risk with guests, but you just never know. Do you know what I mean? Like what the interview might be about. But having got to know you a little bit and the work that you do, it's bloody fascinating. I've just got to say that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And, and for trusting me, to do this interview as well with you. So, where do we start? Well, actually, to begin with, you never started off in Little Rock, did you? Actually, you was born and raised in California?
I was, absolutely. And I started working with the police at the age of 12.
At the age of 12. Now, just before we get into that story, right, was there anybody else with this ability in the family?
My father's side, yes. Yes. He's quarter Cherokee, so his mother was a medicine woman.
Were they still alive, Mum or Dad, when, you started to make this your full-time job?
No, my mother was, but my father wasn't.
How did your mother receive that, you doing that?
I think it brought it home to her when I was in the newspaper and on TV. It's like, all of a sudden it was like, well, you really are a psychic, aren't you?
Yeah, right. And how did that transition, we're going to get back into childhood a bit, but how did that transition job-wise from, doing whatever you were doing to making this your full-time thing?
Well, in all honesty, I never wanted to be a psychic, any way, shape, or form. And I certainly didn't want it as my career. But I was always doing it. It was always happening to me. I was always working on murder cases, always. So when a big murder case hit, I got thrown out into the public. My name got put out to the public because I had been working anonymously with the police. And all of a sudden there were people showing up on my doorstep wanting readings, wanting help. And I became a professional psychic. So I wish I'd done it earlier had I recognized the benefits. When I say the benefits, not so much monetarily, they were good benefits, yes, but spiritually, it was truly a gift for me.
Okay, and what are some of those benefits, would you say?
Watching people heal mentally, emotionally, spiritually, putting murderers in prison, stopping them from killing people, transitioning people from a negative way of living to a positive way of living, helping spirits that were lost, getting them redeemed back to God and into the light, learning how to work with people to help them to use their gifts and to let people know that they're not crazy, and to help mothers with children that are gifted as well, and encouraging them to work with their children and to become more spiritually knowledgeable. And I think the major thing is in teaching people what this is, and that it's to the benefit of humanity and to each other. So it's just been a lot of gifts for me.
Doing this work, what has it taught you about the nature of reality, as in the sense of where do we come from and why are we here?
Well, it's my understanding that we are here to be tested and to learn and to grow spiritually. And it's how we react to any given situation. And the patterns of reaction and the patterns of the lessons themselves. And how strong is this reality? I'm not sure that it is reality. I think it's a school. I really think it's a school, yes.
Do you think, and I don't really want to go into the murders just yet, but I've just got to touch on this because we're mentioning this, what leads on to it really. Do you think that a lot of the murders that you dealt with, there was a karmic tie between the victim and the perpetrator?
Yes, one way or another, yes.
And do you think that some things like the murder, which is extreme in some sense, right? You could call it, even relationships, right? Or, that we come to learn certain things, and some things are chosen before we come down here, but we still have the free will to say no to it.
Correct, yes. Absolutely.
And have you ever journeyed to the spirit world in a sense, because you call yourself a psychic investigator, but have you investigated the essence of who you truly are? And what did you discover?
Well, we're all beings created by God, and we can reincarnate here, or we can reincarnate on another planet, depending upon the lessons that we need to learn, and how much we've grown and evolved, or de-evolved.
That's funny, de-evolved, yeah. Because I guess you can de-evolve as well. And you know what? I guess that's all right.
Sure, it is. We're immortal. What difference? It just depends on how much pain we want to go through.
Well, quite a lot by the idea of being here right now. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of us actually are quite happy with manifesting unhappy lives more than we're interested in manifesting, happier lives. And why is that, do you think?
I think we're programmed by people and everything around us. We're easily manipulated.
Now, could you go from the sense of, well, my mum and dad want me to do this, I will let them down if I don't do what they want me to do, even though I'm, almost 30 years old, right?
Absolutely. Or spouse, depending.
Or spouse, or even caring of what other people think of us to go and do something just to be mainstream.
Yes, absolutely. The sad part about it is they don't care.
Yeah, they may say what a tosspot or whatever, or what a weirdo for doing it, but you know what? On a Tuesday night when they're doing whatever they're doing, they don't give a toss. They just don't.
That's
and
right.
Who's the one that's really left in any agony of like, shit, where's my happiness? I've lost my sense of judgment of what I should be doing and everything else. But, it's a process, isn't it? And I think even when you are in alignment with what you should be doing, you're questioning it all the time. Is that healthy, do you think?
I think to some degree it is, but I think if you overthink things, it destroys what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. You don't accomplish it.
Intuition, that's a big part, isn't it, of all this? That, a lot of us go against our intuition, and then we go into a whole horror movie of our own making, basically, and the sequels and prequels that live on after that as well, that if we carry it on.
What we could have, might have, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so once we've got the 2x4 bashed over our head enough times, most of us will say, well, that hurts. Maybe I should think about the decision I'm making and how much from love does it come from? And then things get a bit better. But do you think even if you make a decision out of love, actually it was a lesson you needed? Because at the end of it, there's something brilliant that comes from it.
Yes, I do. I think every choice and decision that you make, from its consequence comes a lesson if you're willing to learn it.
Absolutely. And just, we're all over the house here, thanks to me, but this is fascinating. You have got a center in Little Rock in the USA, the Carol Pate Psychic Center. How long have you had that, and why did you open it up?
I opened it in '96. I was working out of my house, and my neighbors didn't appreciate all the people coming over. And I would have meetings here on the first and third Friday of every month, and I would have, sometimes 60 people coming to my house for the meetings because I would teach. And so I recognized that I had to move my business out of my house, so I was kind of forced into it. But it was a very good decision. I now have a house to myself, which is my sanctuary, and a place to work.
Absolutely, you do. That's important, isn't it? Because that's your well, it's not only your cleansing place, but it just keeps the energy away, doesn't it? Because we carry around a certain, some of us, who are in dark places, who need help from people with gifts like yourself. We carry a certain energy. Some of us, don't we? That we don't realize we're carrying.
Well, I dealt with people that needed exorcisms, and them coming into my house was not always the best idea.
Well, yeah. Well, as long as they're not leaving it at yours. But then again, exorcism in the sense of exorcism in the sense of what they had attached to them something that hadn't crossed over, or some entity that was
demonic.
And what makes up a demonic energy? Where did that demonic energy come from? Was it human at one time? That's not, No.
No, a demonic energy is a fallen angel.
Fallen from?
I guess heaven.
And when you've got that released off someone, where does it go? If it doesn't want to go back to what we want to call heaven or home, does it just go to the next person next door, or?
No. When I originally started doing the exorcisms, which was a number of years ago, I had to send it back to where it came from. Not to anyone, but back to where it came from. And in order to get it off of a person, I had to command it in the name of Jesus Christ. And if I took a wooden cross and I put it to their skin, it would burn their skin and blister it. It was just wild. It was just wild. It make you believe in God really, really strong. And once I got them removed, then the person was completely changed. Even their facial features changed, where they were hooded looking before.
Let me ask you something quickly then. There has to be a permission from the person that's got that attached to them. Somewhere along the line, it crept in little bit by little bit, and there was permission all the way. To say that person was a victim, I don't know if I believe that.
I don't believe in victims. A lot of the people, some people moved into a house that it was already demonically inhabited, okay? That does happen. Or went to a place that was demonically inhabited. But I think there's a reason for everything. I think they needed the proof that there really is a God, there really is a Satan, there really are demons, there really are angels, there really is a supernatural, if you care to call it. So I think they needed the experience.
Well, sometimes, we need a near-death experience, but I need that like I need, a cardiac arrest right now. Do you know what I mean? I'm not after that to need that type of proof. But some of us do, don't we? Like the harder it's hit over our head, then it's the only way to shake us up. And maybe we've come into lifetimes, in whatever we've been experiencing, and this is one of those wakey times. Do you know what I mean? And it takes a lot to shake someone up.
I've had children 3 years old that were possessed, speaking in Latin with a deep voice.
Isn't it incredible? And sometimes, these entities that possess people, on the outside of the possession and the person's persona on the front, it looks so very normal. And these entities also give information that is true to people, that if they are people in our field giving readings or channeling or whatever they may be doing, and I'm saying this is very few and far between, this is right, but sometimes attachments can give themselves off as something that they're not, gaining energy in some other way. But normally you will see in the background, if you knew the private life of those people, that it's just a destructive life, and there's a reason why.
Yes, I think so. But see, there can be human spirits that attach to people, and it's extremely common. And they can say they're master teachers.
I think, don't you, when something's in alignment, if if it feels that it's coming from love. But we do live in times, don't we, Carol, where there is so much misinformation coming from the conspiracy and the spiritual fields right now, all mixed together. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's the internet. It's the world of the internet. My guides told me a long time ago, in the beginning of the internet, they said it's like a gigantic Ouija board. Be cautious.
Yes, and it's also got a wonderful things as well, because I appreciate some of the other stuff as well. Where would we be without Netflix and everything else? So yeah, and the ability to make this type of call too, which is over the internet to your landline phone, which is incredible. Yes. So okay, were you an only child?
Pardon?
Were you an only child?
I was raised an only child, yes. I had a brother that's 15 years older than me, but he had left and gone into the service by the time I was about 2 or 3 years old.
Okay. Are you still in contact?
No, he died.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Have you been able to communicate with him?
I have, in the past, yes.
With Dolores Cannon, you knew Dolores Cannon quite well. If people look up your name, they'll see you at some of her events. How many years did you know Dolores Cannon for?
Oh, probably 36 years.
Wow. So you knew her back while she was in her infancy of starting up what she eventually left behind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I knew her before she wrote the books.
Right. Well, and what was that like when you knew her back in the day?
Oh, I liked her. I think she was a nice person. Her heart was always in the right place. She was a humble person. She didn't really know quite what to do with her stardom that she developed later on. I think she enjoyed the trips a lot and then began to burn out on them. She would always introduce me whenever we'd get together, which was very often at the UFO conference in Eureka Springs. I'd see her there. And she'd always introduce me to people. This is the real deal. And we have dinner together and talk a lot and talk about her kids. And, it was a nice, friendly, good exchange for both of us. And I helped her when she started writing the books dealing with Nostradamus. And did I think that she was on the right track? And I said, most definitely. And yes, you really are in contact with him. And these books really need to be written. You're gonna do very well with books. That's what you're going to be doing. And she'd been doing hypnotherapy.
Yeah, that's right. Did you ever get regressed by her at all?
I did one time. Yes. Uh-huh.
What did that tell you about yourself?
I was weird. The past life that I went to was one that was here, that it was before this civilization.
Wow.
And she put it in her book, I believe, one of her books.
Oh, you're in one of her books. Okay, interesting. Okay.
I'm not sure if I name it, but yeah. And it was a civilization that was up to probably beyond what we are now. I believe that we've had 5 civilizations, this being the 5th.
Wow. Okay. And I wonder what's going to help us get beyond, going back to a Stone Age again and having to restart it all.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I can answer that one.
Maybe a bit more love, right? For ourselves and others. Yeah.
It would help.
Yeah. Well,
really help.
We'll get into touch on the mystery school kind of stuff towards the end of this interview, because there is just so much stuff to talk about right now as well. And I just hate, that there's such limited time, but it is what it is. Okay. So you deal with, actually, let's just go back to the first time that you were able to connect with someone that had crossed over with a murder. So you're 12 years old. This was a friend of yours that had disappeared. The detectives, I believe, came to see you. They hand you a picture. and you touched that picture. So just tell us what happened.
Oh, well, actually, it wasn't a friend of mine. He was a classmate. I didn't really like him at all. Sorry. I touched the photograph. The instant I saw him with a rifle and a young man behind him carrying a rifle, and they were out in the woods. I guess they were shooting squirrels or birds or whatever it was. And I saw the young man stumble that was behind Harry, and the gun went off and shot Harry in the back. And I knew that he was dead. And that's what I told the police. Well, here I am, I'm telling them this, well, what do you mean you saw this? When did you see this? Were you a witness to this? Well, no, but I see it now. Well, where did it happen? And they tried to make me take them to where it happened. Well, it happened behind his house, which was miles away, but they wanted me to take them where I lived, because I think they thought I accidentally killed him or I killed him on purpose. Well, of course, we didn't find Harry, and they did search behind his house in the woods, and they found the boy, and the boy admitted that he stumbled, and the gun went off and shot Harry in the back, and they found Harry's body, and, of course, word got around through schools, and it didn't hit the newspaper, thank God, but it got around, word, mouth to mouth, talking.
Yeah.
And I developed a reputation for being a witch.
Difficult, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kept telling them I was a good Baptist, not a witch.
I wonder how kids have that experience nowadays. Do you know what I mean? Because this stuff's just so out there right now, isn't it? It's everywhere, in the entertainment and the culture as such. But back then, I guess it must have been difficult.
Oh, nobody talked about it. I never even heard the word psychic. I didn't even know what it was or what I was or what was going on. I had no idea.
What was the turning point for you to start realizing what gifts you had? Was it reading certain books? Was it bumping into people on your journey, or?
I met a lady who was a psychic, and she began to tell me who I was and what I was. And I began to understand what was going on. I didn't know what was going on with me at all. And she helped me. I went under some demonic attack, and she helped me work through that and to learn how to protect myself. And then I went to the Golden Gate Spiritualist Church. Reverend Florence Becker was the reverend there, and she was a psychic and a medium. And she told me that I would be going to the middle states of the United States, and I would become a world-renowned psychic for working on murder cases. And that would be my life's work, would be being a psychic. And I went, yeah, sure.
Yep, absolutely. Do you feel that you work with guides, or do you feel that there's a sort of a team that you're working with to pull this information in sometimes?
I have guides. They tell me they're the Holy Spirit. They told me they have never been human. And they've taught me everything I know, primarily. And they help me work through my family and help me with what I do and how I do it. And they've always brought me the right people to be there for me in whatever areas that I needed to learn directly from.
Yeah, because you were born this way. I mean, I know at the beginning of this interview, I said, that we've all got this ability, and we have, but there was something, the ones really with the gift as well, that's, can just do what you do. There's something different, isn't there? And I'm not trying to make you seem different. I'm just saying you're born with like as though you're open, right?
I was born connected. I was born connected, and I have always, since the time that I remember, which is like 3 and 4 years old, have always seen spirits, always had strange things happening, always. It's always got me in trouble.
Absolutely, but you do teach how to turn your gifts on and use them at the school as well, don't you?
Yes, I don't really have a school. I do workshops, ESPN, the Paranormal, which I started doing at the University of Arkansas. Uh, and I really liked to doing the workshop because I teach people who do have gifts or not aware of their gifts fully how to stop it from being so spontaneous and how to get into a position to be able to master it rather than it mastering you.
Right, yeah, you see that a lot with people, don't you? And sometimes we could move that word away from the ability of being a psychic or a medium or whatever it may be, astrologer or whatever, spiritual gift it may be, right? To even sometimes we turn away from gifts that we've got that we could, build a living from. It may be we may be a great artist or it may be something else, right? Whatever it may be, sometimes we don't always go down the road that we've got that innate ability of, that would bring lots of happiness because we get, like we said earlier on, so scared of what others think of us or what society says is the right way to do things. Yeah.
And we don't trust ourselves.
Right.
We
Yep.
just don't trust ourselves. And what I teach people to do is I teach people to trust their psychic abilities because it helps in your everyday life, in every choice, every decision, it can help you in making your decisions, the right decisions, instead of the wrong ones. It can save your life, especially teaching small children what you're feeling is bad. You get away from that person. When you feel bad feelings from that person, you get away as quick as you can. Teaching them how to see auras, because if you can see auras, you can read the character of another individual. These things are good for your everyday usage.
Right. And sometimes you've seen some very dark auras as well in the work that you've done. And I guess the darker the aura, the more that they're disconnected from their true, disconnected from love.
I've seen black auras.
And what does their black mean, would you say?
They were Satanists.
Wow. And only they can bring themselves out of that space.
Oh, yeah. That's by their free will choice. I've only seen 2, as a matter of fact, in my life. And I've seen disconnected, where the aura was connected from just below the ears down and nothing around the top of the head. That was very interesting.
And just very quickly, you do also, and we may have said this before, so sorry if I'm repeating, but you do also, do the more, if they're normal, but, the more mundane stuff as well. Like, maybe you can give people readings for business, separations, I guess relationships is a big one, right? Yeah. But
I have a forte for character reading. Like if you send me a photograph of someone, I can tell you their true character. I can tell you their motive and their agenda. Yes.
Really?
Great access. Yeah.
Wow. Well, how you do? Is that picking up on their aura or?
No.
No.
I touch into their energy. I'm kind of like a radio. I tune to their station, and it's all there. All the information is there.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. And let's just go into that because obviously, whenever you've given readings for murder victims, and as you've just said, the photograph there, you touch, by touching things or having a piece of personal property, you're able to connect that way as well. And is it called psychometry?
Yes.
Yes. I don't meet many people like you. Do you know that?
No, I didn't. But thank you, I think.
Okay, so with the murder investigations that you've helped out with, you're still doing them now, but there's been many times of burnout. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I've had some burnouts with it. I did one murder case where the man was just totally brutalized, and I felt everything that he went through, and I was in bed for about 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay. So you get to feel it from the experience of the victim and the perpetrator or the murderer, or one or the other, or both. Like I said,
Both. Mm-hmm.
both.
And I get to witness.
Okay. How many sort of cases are you doing right now? Working on?
Well, I worked on a murder case last Friday, so I don't know how many. It's just lots.
Right. And do you have to normally be connected to the case in some way? You can't just be out of curiosity saying, what do you think?
No, and the thing is, I really have to be with somebody that has authority, like a family member or somebody, or the police department that's their job to do the murder, to work on the murder. I can't just randomly pick it. Although I've had murder cases randomly pick me.
Right. I was saying just before we started this conversation that I'm actually have been working on a documentary that involves a murder. The docuseries called based on a murder for a guy called Mark Richards. Well, no, sorry. The Mark Richards was one of the people involved in the crime, but the victim was a guy called Richard Baldwin back in 1982. And when I went to the garage where he was murdered in back in 1982, which has all been modernized now, but the building's still there. One of the people that work there was saying to me that there's been a lot of activity in there, and it never goes away. Tools will get trucked around, things will bang. And so would you say that there's an energy at every crime scene?
No, not at every crime scene. Well, no, there is an energy at every crime scene. There's not always a spirit at every crime scene.
Why would a spirit hang around the crime scene when they know that they must know by this amount? Well, there's no time for them, is there? But
No.
But do you think most of them are aware that they've left their body? Obviously.
No.
Really? That you're not?
No. No. Mm-mm.
If someone took an interest in someone's case from 1,000 miles away from another country, do you think that entity can feel that connection sometimes?
I don't know. I've never asked them. I don't know. I doubt it.
There must be a reason for then some of the activity at some of these places where murder has taken place.
The spirit is there of the victim. They never left.
What would help them move on? I mean, or is that not our business?
Well, of course. Well, if you're a family member, or if they're haunting your place, or let's say it's a hotel room that you're spending the night in the hotel room, and they were murdered in that hotel room, and they're still haunting that hotel room, then you would have the right to some extent to help them to move on and to understand what's happened to them and to move on and go into the light, because otherwise they're earthbound, and they can remain earthbound for a couple of 100 years.
Yeah, you'd think though that they'd want to go see their family, but maybe they do. Maybe through instantaneous thought they. Go ahead.
They're caught in time and in the trauma of the moment, and they can't get out. It's like being in a nightmare that keeps repeating itself over and over and over again, and they can't wake up.
Yes, because let's face it, when someone's had their life taken from them in such a brutal manner, it must be a big shock to anyone experiencing that, because you've got to experience many ways of dying, haven't you, from a victim's perspective?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Yeah, and
most definitely. Never get hit by a train.
Right, that was the worst, was it?
Yeah.
Sounds painful.
Oh, I have no idea.
And they take that with them when they transition, and I guess, yes. I always remember that film Ghost, and I felt that was so close to a lot of truth, and I couldn't put my finger on it why it felt so true, right? But
it's accurate.
yeah, it's almost like someone channeled that information for that film, right?
Yes, absolutely. Even to the little dark entities that took the souls to hell.
Right, and well, do you think hell actually exists, or hell is a creation of, again, a person's version of what they want reality to be?
No, there really is a hell.
Yeah, but I think at some point, if you're going to keep burning or have your bum on fire for a while, I think it's going to become numb.
No, it doesn't work that way. It's not. You're thinking lake of fire. You're thinking of consistent burning. No, it's not that way. The hell can be a hell for you. Whatever your hell would be is for you. can you get out of there? Of course you can get out of there. Nothing's permanent. You're immortal. You can't be immortally put in hell. God would never allow that. God is not a punisher. Wants us to learn, not to be punished.
I just wanted you to say that because that's the same way I feel as well. Do you know what the closest film I got to what you're talking about was What Dreams May Come?
Yes, that's very accurate too, especially on suicide. Suicide brings spiritual loss called self-murder, and they get earthbound, always.
And, you know, when someone's been murdered, and if you were to retrace their steps and the things that they said to their families before the murder took place, most of them are saying goodbye to people that matter to them in ways that you can look back and say, oh my God, there's some part of them that knew.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We know when it's our time, it's our time. Now we get pivotals before, some people get pivotals before their actual time comes, to where they know they could die. If they chose that they wanted to die, they could die. And they start going in and out of their body. But if they make the right choice and they choose to live, then they will not die. But we don't get any warning on our death, but we get this thing of we have to get closure with everyone we love, with all the people that have done good things to us. And we get that closure, and then we pass.
How many cases have you worked on with the police? Just a rough figure.
Oh, my God. 500, 600.
Yep. And what has been the thing is, you don't know really the success rate, I guess, because they never come back to you, do they? Most times. They don't tell you. No.
No. I know by how they're accepting and how they're reacting to the information that I give them. Because I never let them give me the information. I give them the information.
And I guess they're not really disclosing names as such? Full names?
Yes.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. I get the photographs of the victims and the place where the person was murdered, and potential murderers or people that they think did the murder. And very often there'll be police or different people mixed up with the photographs of who they think did it.
And how far, how sort of much distance do some detectives come to connect with you to do this work?
Gee, I never thought about it. Sometimes they fly me to them.
Well, same thing then. So how far are you traveling sometimes? All over when you have been?
Yeah. Colorado, Texas, California, all over. New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, all over.
Yeah, oh God, I'd so many, interesting murder cases. I mean, it's a damn shame that someone had to lose their bloody life to, for what happened. But I mean, even like the Stephen Avery case, do you know what I mean? Or the staircase murder. It's one of the real famous ones. Did they or did they not?
I'm not familiar with it. I don't have anything to do with murder cases other than the ones that I work on.
Right. Interesting. Okay, and I guess as well, there's a lot of cops or detectives that would never talk about that they worked with someone like yourselves. Because no, it's mum's the word, isn't it? But I guess from a taxpayer's point of view as well. There's all sorts of reasons that they've got to keep hush.
Sure, and I respect that. I have no problem with that. I don't go into a murder case to get credit for anything. I go into it to stop the murderer.
Are the vast majorities of murders, do you think, based on money, greed?
No. Well, sometimes it is. A lot of it's based on love, passion. A lot of serial murderers out there. Various reasons, all unique unto themselves. There's no pattern to them, except maybe the serial murderers. And usually, if it's a male, he has a love-hate for women. Extreme.
Yes, and you've dealt with a number of serial murder cases, and actually, you do know that one of them, or maybe a few, but at least one of them was put away and caught.
Oh yeah, all of them that I've worked on
All of them, okay.
so far.
Right.
They weren't at that point that they ended up getting put away.
And you've been around, well, maybe very few and far between, but some people that, or maybe one person that's approached you that has murdered someone because you picked up on it when they came to see you.
Yeah, I had one of that. Yeah, I've had that happen. And I also met a man. The minute he shook my hand, I saw him kill a woman and how he did it, which was interesting, which I went to the authorities about.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have to feel the pain of the victim and, well, from that perspective, is that, I mean, is that something that you choose to do or that has to be part of your process?
Well, I've gotten better at it because what I've learned to do, I've learned to touch the picture, and the minute that I feel the pain, I can pull out, let go of the picture, and then I don't feel it, okay? So I've gotten to where I can control it to some extent. I do have to know how they were murdered. There's no way out on that. I have to have that information to be able to tell the police. And I need to know if they were, for the families, I have to know if they were in a great deal of pain or not. Hopefully not.
Have you been with the victim as they've actually left the body and gone to a place of absolute bliss?
No. Sorry.
Where do they go?
Well, it depends. And I don't necessarily follow through on that level. I follow through on the murder itself, not on what happens to the victim. Although one victim took me over, that happened in Denton, Texas, and she literally leaped into my body and started directing the police as to what happened to her. That was fun. That was tough. And she took me over for probably 2 hours, something like that.
Do you think she's crossed over now?
I don't know. I couldn't get permission from her family to cross her over. They would not give me permission. And I can't do it without permission. I mean, I could have. I tried when she was in me, but I couldn't do anything. I was pushed to the back of my body, like I was standing outside of the back of my body. It's weird.
Do you ever find it that when you're connecting with these victims that they just pop into your reality and they're next to you at that moment because you've connected with them?
It happens. Very often when people want me to connect with their loved ones, and I connect with their loved ones may just leap into my body, you know? In which case I have to call my assistant to have them taken into the light.
Right. Yes. Is that the reason why they really wanted to jump into you, do you think? Because they knew that it's a way back home and they didn't know any other way to do it?
Yes, I think because I made contact with them and their mother or their spouse was there or whatever the case may be, they saw the opportunity of making that connection with their loved one. So they did it by leaping into, it's kind of like in the movie, Ghost. You know, that's what it feels like. They just pop in.
If someone's going to come to you with a murder case, if they're the police, for example, then you don't charge for that, correct?
Correct.
But if it's a family member of a victim, then you would. Now, some people would say, well, how could you do that? But for you, it is just so draining doing this work, and it takes so much out on you that you're not honoring yourself for the exchange to do that otherwise.
Correct. And if I got overwhelmed when Psychic Detective was being shown and Psychic Investigator, I got overwhelmed. I was doing like 3 murder cases a day, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So I had to charge.
Let's just pause a minute. So, yes, you. For people that may not know those terms, that's a TV show that you were on. You was on a number of TV shows, weren't you?
Yes. They're still playing, as a matter of fact. One played the other night, and they've gone worldwide.
Yes, so I believe these shows are also available on the Amazon platform now as well. So just the two shows were.
Psychic Detective and Psychic Investigator. There's actually 12 shows altogether.
Oh, so there's a number of seasons, and a number of shows, right? Yeah, okay. And in these type of shows, then you had to reenact. Some of it was scripted, but a lot of it was probably ad-libbed. But you had to reenact the cases that you dealt with, to show, with authenticity there of how you did the investigation that you did, and it proved to the audience as well that yes, it all connected and made a good show as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we'll link in the description below links to the show, and I think there's also links on IMDb as well. And I suppose when you've been working on these cases, what's your routine then to sort of like make sure that you can shut yourself off and just do normal things? I mean, are you just watching movies? Are you sort of meditating, or what do you do to cleanse?
I really don't meditate, but I'll tell you, first thing that I do is I take a salt bath when I work on a murder case. I use iodized table salt, which that's the only one that really works. About a third of a cup to the bath water, get it from head to toe, and I'm cleansed. All that yuck's off of me. My aura is completely cleansed. And then I usually watch a movie, TV show, and get my mind off of things, or read a book, depending, and just quiet my mind. And then I talk to God a lot. I do a lot of prayer work. But my prayer work is just, I talk to God, and I give a lot of thanks to God for my gifts and for the people that I have around me, that sort of thing.
And you live a sort of normal life. I mean, some people think that people that do this work, they've got to be, some sort of, saint or something like that. That's furthest from the truth, right? Furthest from the truth.
No, I'm just normal, well, relatively normal everyday person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always said this, that some people think that, if you're going to if you're going to say that your faith is more spiritual than anything else, then that you've got to be this, ultra amazing, decent person. I'm not saying you're not decent, but I'm saying that, look, we're here to have a human experience. It is not the avoidance at all of anything that anyone else goes through, whatever it may be.
No, I'm human. I have my failings, and I make my mistakes, and I have my shortcomings along with everybody else. I am anything but perfect.
Me too, absolutely. I can be a right shit when I want to be, right? And sometimes I can be.
I don't want to be a perfect saint or something like that. God, that'd be boring.
Yeah, and also there's no space to say sorry then, neither, that you've done it wrong.
There's no space to learn.
No, there's not. There's not. And God, my mistakes. Well, how long is that list? It's just not long. It's just there's not enough time to go into it all right now. All we have is right now, I guess, and today's better than it was a few weeks ago, right? We try to know more than we did yesterday, don't we? And try to do a little bit better.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this whole thing with this side of the work that you do, it's so important, and I know it's helped a lot of people, to move on as well. But there is also you do enjoy the mysteries as well. You've always enjoyed the mysteries, and you've also, you mentioned before that in your only regression that you were here at a time when the civilization was much more advanced in the past than we are now, right? So has that been the sort of draw to Egypt?
Yes, I've been drawn to all the power centers, but especially Egypt. I've had a few lifetimes in Egypt, and that was a spectacular trip that I took. I've taken 3 trips there. They've all been spectacular. And I like to go back into the past. I like to go back in time and see things as they were and relive things as they were. That's one of my gifts, because I can do that with murder cases. I can do it with places as well. So it's
what would you say is some of the technology we had before in a time beyond this understanding?
there was a technology of the mind. Now, when I say technology of the mind, it's like the mind was a computer, a biological computer. And we could use our mind to make things happen, to manifest much better than we ever could now. We're so limited now, it's pathetic. And I think technology was at a higher level, and it was very clean. Everything, all energy and everything was very clean. It was a calmer time frame. I think where they messed up, and every time we've had a civilization where they've messed up is where they try to be God. They try to create as God their own life forms. And every time it backfires without fail.
That's interesting, isn't it? And do you think backfires in the sense that their creation turns against them?
No, catastrophes happen. Like floods, that sort of thing, catastrophes. They're natural catastrophes, but they happen. They don't kill all of mankind, but it takes down the civilization. I like watching ancient astronauts because sometimes they come up with some of the things that they've found that date back more than history is recorded or that it can possibly record. It's like with the Sphinx. The Sphinx, when I worked with the Sphinx, it turned out to be 10,500 years old. I thought that was pretty interesting. It was there before the pyramids.
How do you apply discernment when it comes to getting a spiritual reading from someone, no matter what it may be, numerology, mediumship, psychic, whatever it may be? How do you approach the right person to give you a reading, or is that
don't.
You don't? No. Is it someone that you resonate with?
I don't get readings from other people.
No, but for other people that do.
I guess you have to check their track record to see if they actually are really psychic. There's a lot of wannabes out there. And they're not. They're just out there for the dollar. And you have to really check out their track record, what other people say about their readings, if they're accurate in what they do. And my guides told me to have a strict belief system. It's God is real, Christ is real, Satan is real. If those three things are not part of that, I don't need to listen to that person.
A lot of people, can easily attack this field because, you're dealing with people's hearts. But, many, many, many industries have rogue and cowboys, rogue cowboys, within them. Do you know what I mean? And con artists. It's just with this particular one, it's always been one that's been more pulled apart than others, maybe.
Well, Kevin, you're dealing with a field that people are completely ignorant about. They don't know anything about it. So you can say anything you want to them. What choice do they have? They just believe it because they want to. Yes, I'm going to talk to your dead so-and-so, and they love you terribly, and they miss you terribly, and you start the healing process with their heart, and they're all a bunch of lies. You don't know. You just don't know. It's sad. It's really, really sad. That's why I try to educate. I do a broadcast on the first and third Friday. I don't not selling anything, but just to educate, to let people know what is and what isn't, to my experience. Okay? I can't say this is the absolute, because it's not, but to my experience.
And if they go to your website, they can find that link to that broadcast and past broadcasts?
Yeah, it's on Facebook.
Okay, well, we'll link that in the description below. So if you want to know what we're talking about right now, just go to the description below this video, and you'll see not only all the links to what we've talked about, but what we're describing now on the Facebook link for this audio. Okay. And, well, I mean, could you just say one thing that, okay, so if someone's going to get a reading from someone, what is the one thing? I suppose that it's difficult, though, because unless you've had the reading with the person, you don't quite know all the time, do you?
No, you really don't. You might test them, hand them a photograph. That's what they do with me. The people that do readings with me, they send me photographs. They don't tell me anything. I just say, okay, what do you want to know about this person? You want to know their character? What do you want to know? And I just start telling them all about the person. Well, if you send that person a photograph and they can't tell you about that person, they don't know what they're doing, or that's not their field. I'm not sure.
Yes, well, not everyone connects with a photograph, though. Do you know what I mean?
Pretty much. See, I don't even look at the photograph. I just touch it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is not everyone has that way of doing it.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Not everybody uses psychometry.
Right.
But then I got to wonder how they're doing it. Because like it or not, I do believe there is scientific proof in this field.
Just going to the pyramids, then, you would say that the pyramids were built after the Sphinx was built, and that there were maybe temples that were there in this highly civilized society. So, what do you think are secrets of treasures that would change the world that are maybe hidden underneath? Would you say underneath the Sphinx? And Edgar Cayce talks about this as well. But what have you discovered in your research?
Well, I worked with Dr. Joseph Shore with ARE, and they took me over to Egypt, and I was able to locate a tunnel that led from the Great Pyramid to the back of the Sphinx. And we found an opening, which I told him where the opening was. Boris Said was working on the project, and he filmed it. And he found the opening, and they went into it. I went into the opening when I went there, too. And there was a sarcophagus lid, and it covered an entry into a tunnel that led to the Sphinx. But the tunnel was filled with water, interestingly enough. And there was several tombs in there, too. There was like 3 levels. The top 2 levels were tombs, the sarcophagus. But the water had been there for a long time. We're talking thousands of years. And then one day the water receded, and that's when you could go in there, and that's when they found that top of the sarcophagus, and it was a black granite sarcophagus with no lip. So it was just a covering of the entry. And I went to the Sphinx, and I was able to sit at the right paw of the Sphinx. And there was what you would call there was a tunnel that led an antechamber, and then there were like 9 chambers underneath the Sphinx and underneath the paws of the Sphinx. And they were filled with objects because they did a sounding, and they found that they were filled with objects. But the government would not allow us to open the antechamber and to go into these chambers. And we weren't told why. We were just denied access.
Do you think secretively people have been in there?
I don't know. I think there's a good possibility, yes. But they wouldn't want it exposed, the information exposed, because I do believe it goes back to Atlantis.
You believe that there's items in there that have information somehow encoded in them of a record of a civilization that destroys the history?
Yes, and I believe there's crystals that have information within them.
Very interesting.
I do.
So, okay, we're at the end of the interview right now. We're out of time. Your website, again, Carol?
It's carolpate.com. Very simple.
Thank you, and that's in the description in the link below. Just very, very quickly, what would you say is a final last message? What's an important last message would you say before you go?
Get spiritually educated. It's a difficult process, I know, but trust your gut, trust your solar plexus. If it feels like truth, it probably is truth. If it doesn't feel like truth, put it to the side and move on. And don't let people misguide you or mislead you because it's things that you want to hear. Don't trust things that you want to hear. The majority of my readings are usually things people don't necessarily want to hear. So just be cautious. Just be cautious.
Absolutely, that's so important. Well, listen, Carol, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Kevin, thank you so much for having me, for allowing me the opportunity to help educate some people. I appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure meeting you and doing the show.